Hi, I'm Stephanie Ann Boyd, and I'm the composer of Julia Louisa Esther, a Suffragette Symphony, which premieres on Saturday with the Wyoming Symphony Orchestra, conducted by Christopher Dragon. Julia Louisa Esther was commissioned by the Wyoming Symphony to celebrate 150 years since Wyoming allowed women the right to vote. This work was commissioned with help from the Doan family in honor of Paul Ann Doan, who was a great supporter of the symphony and a tremendous pioneer in her own right. Rounding out this concert are two other pieces that hearken towards a celebration of feminine strength. First is Bizet's Carmen, featuring an important feminist icon, and then we have Florence Price's dances in the Canebrakes. Taken from the four-act opera that premiered in 1875, the Carmen Suite is jam-packed with memorable melodies as it tells the story of the soldier Don Jose and the bold, beautiful gypsy Carmen. Bizet sadly died before its 33rd performance, so he has no idea how deeply Carmen would charm her way into the hearts of so many in the more than 100 years since the piece was written. Florence Price, a composer born in 1887 whose works have finally, in just the last few years, begun to receive the attention they deserve, attended the same school I did, the New England Conservatory, and thanks to her stunning compositional genius, she was the first African-American composer to have her work programmed by a major orchestra. Dances in the Canebrakes was one of the last pieces she wrote before her passing in 1953. And the sumptuous work draws rhythmic inspiration from ballroom dances and rags. And a canebrake is an area of tall cane plants in marshes or on the sides of streams that are found all over the place in the Deep South. My last business trip before COVID was a week at the beginning of December in 2019 to Wyoming, so that I could spend time with the community and learn about Casper and meet the orchestra and absorb their artistry, and take in Wyoming for myself so that when I wrote the piece, I could be writing not just from my research into other people's stories and written history, but I could be writing from my own memories. And Julia Louisa Esther was named after three women who were very important in the women's suffrage movement in Wyoming. First, we have Julia Bright, whose husband William Bright introduced the bill to give Wyoming women the right to vote. I imagine that Julia had given him quite an earful for a long time about this during conversations across the dining room table. Then we have Louisa Swain, who was the first woman to cast a vote. The story goes that she was in town to get some yeast and fancied casting a ballot while she was there. Two birds, one stone. And thirdly, we have Esther Morris, who was the first woman office holder being appointed as Justice of the Peace in 1870. At about 25 minutes in length, Julia Louisa Esther is 4 movements long and begins with the wilderness of Wyoming. You'll feel the rumble of a horse herd long before you hear them at the beginning of the first movement, and this movement encompasses feelings of optimism and excitement as pioneers gave up their lives and worlds they knew in an attempt to make a courageous new future. The second movement is painted in blues and purples. It's a love story told in the mountains by moonlight. Inspired by a moonrise I saw during my time here in 2019, this movement speaks to the mutual respect that must have been a huge part of the marriage between Julia and William Bright, and its instrumental solos were chosen as a love note to Paul Ann Doan, who loved the bassoon and piano. The third movement is a kinetic, frenetic mash of declarations and interruptions. You'll hear melodies bouncing from one side of the orchestra to the next, speaking with urgency and conviction, with frustration and inspiration alike. With this movement, I sought to reference the many conversations that were had about the right to vote. Conversations not had between legislators, but conversations between everyday families at their own dining room tables, while hanging the laundry, while making coffee in the morning. Because it is these conversations where progress gains strength and takes root. And the fourth movement is an anthem, a slow burn into a bright, loud, optimistic ending. I'm so honored that the Wyoming Symphony chose me to write this story about such an important part of Wyoming history, and I will see you on Saturday at the concert. Please feel free to come up to me afterwards and let me know what you thought.